M&A TV is very pleased to be joined right now by Terry Mackin, Managing Director for Generational Equity. Terry, thank you so much for being with us today.
Well, you're very welcome. Thank you for asking.
Tell us about your company and what you do specifically there.
Well, Generational Equity is a very unique company in the overall mergers and acquisitions space. I like to call it seminar-driven. We have a group of people who reach out to small business owners and call them on the phone and ask them if they've ever thought about selling their company, and if they know anything about mergers and acquisitions. And where they don't, where they're interested in learning more, we do seminars nationwide in Canada. It gives those business owners an opportunity to come in for a day and listen to all the nuts and bolts that it's going to take for them to sell their business on their own. And our objective in that is then to provide them with all the information they need. The end result being that when a business owner comes to our seminar, they walk out with a full binder of all the information, contracts and non-disclosure agreements and so forth, to be able to go out into the marketplace and sell their business on their own if they want. But we're also there if they're interested in having representation. And as part of our process, not only do we represent them eventually in the marketplace, but we also evaluate their business, give them an understanding of exactly where we feel the market value for their business would start. And then, of course, where we come to an agreement that that's a good place for them in terms of their expectations, we can then take them into the marketplace, and we have experts that can take them the rest of the way.
And these clients who come in and are interested in this, are they generally clients that are in trouble or just thinking about changing direction?
Well, for us, I mean, ultimately, we want to be of service to the entire small business community. That is where we focus. We like to say that our goal is to provide Wall Street services for that Main Street business owner. And, of course, we've got a criteria. We certainly want to be able to be successful, and certain businesses are going to sell and be more successful in the marketplace than others. But where we have an opportunity to be able to pass along that knowledge that we believe small business owners need to have, maybe there's a word of mouth opportunity out there, but ultimately it's all about trying to get out there and get them to understand exactly what this whole world about M&A is, because they've probably heard about it, but never really got a chance to understand just how daunting it can be.
Well, speaking of getting the word out there, part of the way you get the word out there is through your blog. Tell us about that and how folks watching right now can actually check it out.
Well, there's so much information that's out there, but for the small business owner, he's focused on his business on a daily basis. And that's really the most important thing for him. And he may hear things about businesses being sold in his space. He may hear about good market conditions, but ultimately he doesn't have a source to go to where that information is collected and he can read about what's going on in that space. So Generational Equity created this blog. I'm lucky enough to be the editor of it and create new opportunities, new ideas about things we can add into it. But what we try to focus on is industry information. It's not a blueprint for generational equity. It's certainly a sales piece from our standpoint, because we want to be in the conversation should a business owner look to get representation. But what we really try to focus on is providing that business owner or anybody that's out there on the internet that's looking to understand M&A with a forum for them to be able to see what's going on day to day in the marketplace and how that can affect them and their decision-making process.
And so would we find this right on the Generational Equity website? Is that where the blog is located?
Yes, you can find it. Yeah, find it on the Generational Equity website. And we're very proud of our branding, so I think if you hit Generational Equity blog, you're going to find it all the same.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about a panel that you were on today. We were talking about valuation. Now, how does a company's reputation really correlate to the value of it in an M&A market?
Well, for us, we are, first of all, as a company, we're very agnostic in terms of the industries we represent. So we're more looking for the small business client than we are to the specific industry he might be in. So once we have a client that's in a space, if we've already worked in that space, we have information within our company, within our database, that we can rely on that tells us about valuations that are being paid for that. We also have ability to be able to tap into other services that are out there and so forth. And ultimately, our ability to be able to take that information and then impart it on a client's business is our ability to be able to give them an understanding of what the value of their business is today. And then they can start making decisions about whether that number makes sense to them for their retirement, for the rest of the family, their partners, or for them to just get out of a business that they've spent a great deal of time in and move on to something else in life.
If you don't mind, let's talk about a reputational hole, what that concept even means, and how a company can get out of that hole.
Well, I believe, if I'm correctly understanding your question, you have to be able to show that your business has a value in that space, and your reputation is everything when you're in that space. And so when we put together an evaluation for a client, we're looking at all the factors that make for what their value should be in that marketplace. And its reputation, its brand, it's all these other things that go back to how that then lends itself to the overall value that a buyer would see in that business. And where there are things within the business that we recognize that buyers would not necessarily like or would question in any way, we want to make sure the client understands that, almost as a devil's advocate in many regards, that he realizes that there are things about his business that buyers are not going to look too kindly upon. Maybe he can change them, minimize them, maybe he can't. But ultimately, our goal is to be able to take what we understand about their company and try to put it into a package that would attract as many buyers as possible.
Building a strong reputation and maintaining it is key. What advice would you give to someone just starting out? The right things to do and then some of the wrong things that you see.
Well, I mean, if you're starting out with a business, it's difficult to not just focus on what you see as a core opportunity. And a lot of our clients did that 20, 25, 30 years ago. They had that one customer, they had that one truck, and what they did was they built that business off of that relationship. What I would suggest to somebody starting a business now is don't stop there. Keep in mind that if you build your business off of one customer and that customer consistently is your biggest customer, now you have customer concentration problems. And that's a problem for a buyer, and that's a risk factor that we would point out. If you're growing a business and you get beyond that and you can make sure that that client is just another one of all the other customers that you have, then you've built a company that falls in line with what buyers would consider to be premium. There's a handful of things that are like that are out there that would take up a lot of time today, but ultimately I think if you were to go to our blog, if you were to go to a generational equity seminar, if you were simply to reach out to an individual like me at Generational Equity, based on your business, based on your strategy, I could give you a lot more points on why those are the things, or what things you need to focus on to be able to build a buyer-ready business.
Well, you raise a good point. Unfortunately, time here is limited, but be sure to check out Terry's blog at generationalequity.com.
.com.
All right. Terry, thank you so much for your insight. It was wonderful having you here
welcome.
on M&A
Thank
TV.
you.